Welcome to Puck Talk CS. A lot to uncover. Massive litmus test for the Rangers against the better Jets, the Winnipeg Jets. And they're going on their road trip soon. There is a lot of redundancy, defensive issues, Zibanejad strife, and third line success. So a lot to unpack, a lot to look forward to, and then we'll circle around the rest of the NHL. Steve, how are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I can't say that the state of the team is doing great, but I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing good. Overall, like broadcasting's going good. Everything's going good. I know school was busy for you, so um, it's that time of the year, man. Like once you start getting headed towards Thanksgiving, it's like a snowball downhill.
I know. And then before you know it, it's January, it's trade deadline, and then it's playoffs. Like it's crazy in terms of NHL. So listen, let's do it. Let's talk some puck. And man, we got a lot to talk about.
All right, let's talk about the defensive accountability first because I feel like there isn't a lot. Um, it sounds like Peter Laviolette is like sticking to his guns. He tried to shift the lineup and then was like, all right, we're going to go with this and try and stick this out. And now at today's practice, at least according to the reporters, the lines were what they were before, as in, Kreider, Smith, Zibanejad, Panarin, Lafreniere, Trocheck. I like that they're not messing with the third line and frankly the fourth line, but the top six has to buckle down. Now, in terms of the defense, there have been very limited to no changes all year. Ryan Lindgren was injured at a point. Victor Mancini played a few games. He's now sent down to Hartford.
Yep.
What do you make of the fact that the team is not really trying to adapt or change the D pairings when it's clearly not working?
Yeah, and the thing with the defense is just so funny because we know Fox and Lindgren are a pair, Truber and Miller, and then you got Schneider with Jones, and these guys, aside from Jones and alongside Schneider, these guys have been playing with each other for a long time. It's not like Riley Smith coming in and playing, with Mika Zibanejad and Kreider, where you got to build that chemistry, let it sit and bubble a little bit. No, these guys are used to each other. They know how they play. They've been playing for years and years and years. So the fact that the defense is a little bit off is surprising. Now, again, we always know it's the same thing with our team. We have Igor, so some of those defensive issues kind of go under the radar, but I feel like now it's very noticeable. It's deflatable, and the our defense is not getting help from our offense. And I'll say,
Mhm.
I'm not concerned. Like, I don't think we need to be shifting, defensive pairs. I think what our problem is that we are just being sloppy overall. We're a team that's been gambling a lot. I'm seeing a lot of gambling, not the gambling I like, but gambling in the offensive zones where we've been, trying to get advantages. And, a team like Winnipeg, I like how you said the better team in Winnipeg. I don't think they're a great team. They credit to them; they're the best team in the NHL. But they really picked apart, our freelancing plays and odd man rushes and took us apart. I could sit here and give you a million examples, whether it's Panarin to Mika, sloppy overall, and that sloppiness and bad decisions. And just not capitalizing on opportunities, that puts our defense in a tougher spot, especially when the defense is not playing well to begin with in the first spot. And when you're going behind, just in bad plays and missed opportunities, you're not going to put your defense in a good position. So I don't think our team as a whole is helping the defense out. But with that being said, I'm sure you're going to agree with me in a second. But Keandre Miller, I got to see more. I mean, these guys are not performing, to the expectation, and they're not performing to what we're used to seeing from these guys, which is surprising.
I disagree. And I like that you've addressed, the messy play, but where I disagree overall is that I think they have to try new pairings. And actually, I'm sitting here with the mic on the floor. What am I doing? I think they have to address the defensive pairings, right? Like Miller's a -5 in 14 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, and a -4 last night, a -3 against Buffalo. he is committed to the slide. He's 6 feet. He's a giraffe on the ice, and he's committing to the slide way too often for someone of his physical gifts and stature. I think Trouba was better off with Schneider in their short time together. And the reason Trouba and Miller on the ice for 0 goals for, but 7 against in 14 games. In half the games they played, they've surrendered a goal. So I think overall, then you look at Lindgren comes back. He hasn't looked like himself. Lindgren and Fox just not enough in 9 games. 2 goals for, 3 goals against. Fox played all right with Miller. I didn't think they blew me away, but I think Laviolette has to try something new because at this point, I understand almost 2/8 through the season, 1/4, but when like to me, I think you're saying like the players, they're gonna have to figure it out. But I think at this point, I don't know, I feel like this has been a theme, and we're gonna get to the overarching themes in a minute, but I think just to agree to disagree, you're saying it's sloppy. I'm saying they should try new D pairs. And I think honestly, I actually kind of agree with both of those things.
I think it's a combination of everything, and I agree with you with Miller. Like Miller, I need to see more with. I mean, last year
In a contract year, man,
in a
like this
contract
is
year,
brutal.
you just read my mind. I was gonna say it kind of boggles me that we didn't commit long term to him. A year or two ago, and you would think that this is going to incentivize him, keep developing, keep growing. Let's see that improvement. Not last year, but the year before, we saw a fantastic year from him. Even the playoffs he had was great. And it's just
Mhm.
the downfall. I mean, he's picked up this year where he left off last year. And last year's postseason, let's remember, was horrible. Keandre Miller had a horrible postseason last year,
Yeah.
whether it was defensively, whether it was with the penalties. I mean, I think Jacob Trouba was the only one that saved Keandre Miller because he had way more penalties than he had, and the focus was on him. But I mean, if Trouba didn't have that bad of a postseason, we all be pointing a finger at Miller. Not to mention, Miller's defensive mistake that led to the Game 5 goal. Who was it, Barkov or somebody? That ended up being the game-winning goal for them.
Yeah.
So listen, it's not working out. But I want to ask you, what defensive pairing has been the most? Which one is the most concerning for you? And I want to see if we have the same pairing because I know who I would say is giving me the biggest issue right now.
Oh, it's Trouba and Miller for me. And I've actually stood on business and been such a Jacob Trouba supporter and such a Keandre Miller supporter. And I try and take the optimistic swing, not only on our show, but online too, very often. But gosh, this is right in itself. I mean, they haven't generated a goal and they've given up 7. Not only that, I mean, -4, then -3. We're not talking like, all right, you're overreacting, -1, -2, like -4. You were on the ice for 4 goals. And the thing for me is Adam Fox hasn't impressed me either, at all. But I also feel like Fox and Lindgren haven't been as obviously or visibly bad. Like optically, I don't think either of them have given up a goal where it was like, oh, geez, that was not very, that was clearly out of position. Or like Lindgren has for sure. And I think Fox in some instances has. But I do think they've done a better job of like fooling us with the eyes. Like Fox will make some nice plays. Lindgren at least will you know, be in position at certain points. And it's not like he's played 9 games, smaller sample size than the rest of the team, or at least the top four. And it's weird. I think the shame is, like you said, like these guys have played with each other so long. It's odd that it's unraveling. But who do you think has been the worst Baron?
I agree with you. I would
Yeah.
point the fingers at Miller and Trouba. That's who I was going to say. I think not even defensively, but offensively. I mean, they just been a mess. I mean, whether it's Trouba in the offensive zone, I mean, they're not. This team has just has skewed so far away from the fundamentals that we've seen last year, which is why this team was so successful in winning the President's Trophy. We just seen such a dip from how you get in the zone, set pucks up, and get our situation going. I mean, this year it's just sloppy. I mean, Trouba's just. I don't even know what he's doing. If he's just throwing the puck in the zone, like there's not even anybody there if you're watching him in the offensive zone. So it's not just Truba, it's everybody too. We're gonna get into the offensive guys as well.
Oh yeah, actually, probably the two defensemen. I mean, Jones and Schneider have impressed me. Amid all this, they've been very quiet and been doing their job. Very impressed by that. Like these are young guys that you don't expect. Like you'd expect that domino effect to affect them. I'd actually argue. I think Truba, out of all of the top four defenders we're talking about, has probably been in some ways the best. I feel like he hasn't been as obviously bad as the other three. Like Fox to me is just not doing enough to be a Norse. Like there was a period of time where he looked really good out of the gate, like no goals on the offensive side. And then defensively, I just feel like 9 mil. He just doesn't look like a $9 million defenseman right now. I know he's not explosive like McCarr or fast like Hughes, but like I feel like we haven't seen the Fox that we have seen. Miller certainly is strayed far away from that 22-23 year. And I think Lindgren in it, he's another one contract year that I've been like, for the guy that's gritty and whatnot, like I just feel like we haven't really seen his game from him.
Yeah,
Um,
the thing
I'd
with
argue Trouba's probably been the best of the three or four because I think he's improved a little bit compared to where he was at in the conference final.
Yeah. All right. Couple thoughts there. Kind of agree with you there on Chubam. I think Miller is skewing that line a lot. He's just been so bad. Adam
Yeah.
Fox, I'm with you. Adam Fox, I need more from. I mean, you look at his stat line. I mean, his stat line is skewed. I mean, he's got 0 goals. He's got 11 or 12 points. But I mean, all of his points are come from multi-point games. So he'll go 6 games without a point, and then he'll have a 3.9. And then he'll go another 3 games without a point, and then have a 3.9. So I mean, offensively, I'm just seeing nothing from Fox, which I need to see more of. And maybe, yeah, it's hard to, I'm not pointing the finger at Fox and blaming him for why we've had a little bit of an offensive, uh, you know, just quietness. But when everybody else is not clicking, then yeah, Fox. I don't expect Fox to click. But even again, his ability to set up plays, even on the power play, I'm convinced we would be the San Jose Sharks if it wasn't for our power play. And then even when the power play doesn't click, it's kind of like wow. Then that something's off and we're in trouble. Even when we've power play opportunities in these last few games that we've just had nothing. Like we've had unit 1 hasn't been able to get anything going, and unit 2, don't get me wrong, we're still a very strong power play team, but you just know that something's there or something's up when A, you can't score 5-on-5, B, it's just fundamentally everything is not looking good, and C, you just when you're good on the power play, you just have a couple opportunities where you have no shots.
All right, let's talk right now. Let's shift quick. Let's talk Zibanejad, 3 costly turnovers. So one, there's obviously the Knox Drew's defensive game. He talked to Vince Mercogliano today and had a really great in-depth. Uh, he took ownership of it, but whether he takes ownership of it or not, and sadly, this is the way the business is. You still need results. Like to me, like yeah, there are a lot of players that might not take ownership. He did, but it still doesn't change it. Like he is human overall. He's a hockey player. I want to know your opinion in a nutshell because I have a take and I don't I think I'm going to get slammed for it, but I want to know your thoughts on just the turnovers last night because I feel like we're beating a dead horse with the defense and Zibanejad the last few episodes, but what were your thoughts at least against Winnipeg?
Oh boy. Listen, for Mika, this is not a one, game event that's been going on. He's been consistently bad 5-on-5. He's still searching for his first power play goal of the season, and that's his move. That's what's up with him because Mika on the power play is money. Money Mika March. That's his move. And when he's not getting into that groove of things, then you could just see, yeah, something's really off. And
Mhm.
eh, the thing with Mika is that, I never question his personality. He's a nice guy. He's always taking accountability. He's a fan favorite. I when he comes out and takes accountability, there's not, it's something that's expected of a player of his caliber, and it's like Aaron Judge, who just experienced it with the Yankees in the playoffs. He said after every game, going 0 for 5 with 4 strikeouts, he's saying, "Yeah, I got to be better." But there's a point where it's like, all right, time's running out. We need you to be better. Right now, time is not running out, but it kind of does at the same time because Mika just hasn't been that bad. I mean, he's been that bad going back to 2017, 2018. I mean, he's had in that span from 17 to like 23, he's had almost 100 power play goals. And it's just the thing that's haunting me right now is these missed opportunities, especially in last night's game. I mean, I'm getting flashbacks of Ryan Strome over here. I mean, when he rang that one timer off the post on the second period power play, and then in the third, when we were down 2, he shanked a feed from Adam Fox. When we had Hellebuck out of position, that was a huge missed opportunity. And then just overall, I mean, the turnovers. I mean, just overall, and it's not just Mika, it's Panarin too. We could get into Panarin in a second, but overall, it's just not been efficient. There's the other play where he tried to pull up and make a play in the Jets zone. I think it was late in the second when it was 2-2, but then he lost the puck, and then Panarin made that ill-advised rush instead of coming back to cover, for Jacob Trouba. And then that led to Kyle Connor putting one in. So all around, it's just the turnovers is just, something's off. We got to get back to fundamentals because, Mika is just, I don't know what to say at this point. I know a lot of other people do. A lot of Ranger fans are losing patience. Yes, we love Mika. I love Mika. And the problem is that, the conversations need to be what's to do with it, because I really don't know what to do at this point.
I think it's confidence. And I'm going to say, I have a lot to say, but it's a positive spin. Um, it's November. And like we said, you're a quarter of the way in. You want to know your team's identity, but I think that's different than a player being cold. Um, I think Zibanejad at his peak, we have to remember what Zibanejad has been for this team. In 18-19, the only other player of true skill at that time, like Kreider was still a 20 goal scorer on his first contract off his entry level and had a blood clot at most of that season. Zibanejad recorded 74 points. He had flash on the power play that we haven't really seen, at least in modern Ranger history, the one timer. And he bridged from Lundqvist to through rebuild to coming out of that rebuild, that 2019-20 season, he was unstoppable before the COVID shutdown. 2020, 2021 was a similar situation as this. And then he went off. He had this 2 6-point games in the same week. He finished at almost a point per game where he came in and he was doing nothing that first half of that year, 2021. Then 21-22, he goes off 10 goals in the playoffs, is a major playoff player for the Rangers. 22-23, 90-point season, then struggles in the playoffs. Then last season, he was a little bit off. He started to miss the mark on the one-timer position. But to wrap all what I just set up, every single year I just mentioned, he's been a lot at times where the Rangers needed it most. And I think that shouldn't necessarily be forgotten. Like, I understand it's what have you done with me lately? And it's not only that, but it's, is this a trend? Is this something that's going to continue to happen? But I want to hear your take on that because I also think something we're forgetting, and just to add that angle, is like he's meant so much at times where it was dark. You know, I think for the negativity that's surrounding him and the pressure that's on him right now, and he feels it, is like I think there has to be a semblance of trying to pick him up because he at many times has been the player that's gotten us through. I want to hear your take on that overall.
I respect that point. Listen, there's really not much I could disagree with that there. Again, Mika, I'll never forget. Fan favorite. I'll never forget that 5-goal game. What was it, in 2020 against Washington? I mean, that was
Yeah.
just that's a historic game. That's one you look back on from in like 15 years from now. And yeah, you're right. He was there during that bridge period. You could argue he was one of the Rangers that got us out of that. So you can't argue that. The point that I want to highlight there is that yeah, you're right. It is early in the season, but and not to say that I was all negative because I did slam Mika, but this is more of my
Who isn't though, right?
and
Like I understand that.
who this is it's not a raw reaction where we're seeing some new. This is a tread line. We're going back to the end of last year, and just this year. This is a tread line of
Probably honestly 22-23 playoff. I only think he had a goal against New Jersey in the playoffs. One goal, game 6.
yeah, that was a big goal. But yeah, you're kind of right. But even last year in the beginning, there were still spurts where he was putting up big numbers on the power play. But again, when he's not putting numbers on the power play, which is his thing, and you will see, the thing with us, and I agree with you. It's not to be negative. We're still in a good position, and we'll get into big picture things in a second. But this is a trend line for him. He's obviously trending down in terms of performance. And the thing that worries me, or thing that frustrates me, not worries. I think we're way past that. Um, what kind of concerns me is that Mika, he has games where he's quiet and not noticeable. And that's frustrating because even when Mika doesn't hit the score sheets, I don't need, goals. I don't need 6 goals from him. Yeah, that would be nice. We've gotten that from the past. We know he could do it. The problem is
Mhm.
I just need him to be better. I need him to make, and when I say better, I need him to make better decisions. I don't need the turnovers. I don't need the mistakes. I just need quality opportunity. It's just all not meshing together. And yet, when you sum it up just like you did, it sounds like a confidence thing, but can a great player like Mika just lose his confidence for like the last year? I mean, that's to have no confidence for a year. I mean, that's really tough. What does it take for him? I think I know what it takes, but I'm asking you, what does it take for him to turn this confidence around? Because again, we're not trending in a good direction here.
Listen, if I'm going to bat for him right now, this is Stanton at the plate, MFer. You know what I'm saying? This is Stanton at the plate. This ain't no judge. I'm going to bat for him. And I'm going to bat for 93 because I hear you on all accounts. And I do like what is it gonna take? We know it's not the other players that's around him. It's not Riley Smith. He wasn't gonna unlock him. Like that was all the reporters said all summer. Riley Smith to unlock Mika, and Kreider. And first of all, that's not how it works. That's not how chemistry works. Like a single player doesn't unlock another player. Um, but okay, there was that. There's power play, right? And we saw Loff stepped on the ice and scored a power play goal last night in Zibanejad's position, right? Like it can't be getting any worse for Zibanejad. He's gone from this center that's like, man, he's elite when he's on to he's not at all. My concern overall, and you touched upon it, is like we need, when all the chips are down, the opposite centers you're playing, even if they're not producing a goal, are Barkov, McDavid, players of this caliber. You need him to be all over the ice. He's a center. He is the third defenseman. He is the first attacker, right? Like he has Zibanejad has so many responsibilities as a number one center for the team. I really think what it's going to take is it's going to take him, and I think it's going to take one thing to fall their way, that line, and specifically him, and I think from that point forward, it'll all fall into place. Like, imagine the feeling a player like Zibanejad can like the elation. Say they play New Jersey in December. Now, granted, we don't nobody wants to wait that long, even on the road trip. He scores a one-timer on the power play in an overtime. Like that is the type of thing that can get him out of it. But I know it's wishful thinking. That's just the situation I think it's going to have to be. I really do. Or it's going to have to be, he has 2 assists in a period and then scores in the second period and now he's on a roll and him and Kreider are feeling it, like I think that's what it's going to take to answer you simply.
Yeah, listen, 93 is you. been one of the most responsible players for us on the ice these last few years. But now it just seems like he's pressing. He's pressing. He's trying to make things happen. You could definitely tell that it's getting to him. We don't need a verbal confirmation from him. I mean, you could obviously tell watching these games that he's just not comfortable in his game right now. But it seems like
Yeah.
he's not been comfortable for a while, and the timing to me is just is a little concerning. But listen, you got a game now against the Sharks coming up. That is perfect the perfect get right game, if there ever is one. There is a positive that I do want to take away. Actually one more negative. I got one more negative. Bro, what's up with us playing at home? I mean, our home and away record is just a huge disparity. I mean, we play like dog shit at home, and then the surprising thing is that we're 5-1 on the road. We play outstanding on the road, but I mean, for some reason, and this has been like a trend line too these last couple years. I mean, for home, we just can't figure it out. What's up with that? You got a thought on that?
Yeah, it is odd. Like there are a number of games that I think about that are like, why did we lose that at home? Lundqvist Banner night. We
Yeah.
gave up like 6 to San Jose last year. We lost on home ice 2 years ago to San Jose in overtime. Yeah, we there have been a number, even conference final, obviously, you had the home ice advantage and you lost. So you lost the home ice advantage at home in every game, except one game, game what, two? So
Mhm.
yeah, that is a good point, Steve. I like that
Like,
you raised that because I
look
think,
at
this keeps up. It's gonna be something to keep an eye on. They go on the road now for a little while, but after this home game, but
maybe maybe that's exactly what we need. Like you just look at some of these games. Like we caught the Sabres game together, worst game of the year so far. That was home. That was a debacle. You look at that Ottawa game, even though we just escaped, that was home. Wasn't pretty. You look at that Jets game, but then you flip over and you look at some of our road wins, and you see that win in Toronto, that win in Detroit. I mean, some of the road wins have been just so dominant. Then you go look back at home, you see we lost to the Panthers. We absolutely destroyed the Canadians on the road. Just I don't know, it's kind of weird, Well, but listen, that could be the right thing we could use the channel right now as we transition to a long road trip. More on that in a second. But positive. Let's be positive here. I feel like I've been a little negative this episode. Positive. I really like what I've seen from our third line and Kakko, Cooley, and Heedle. I think that line has been very clean. I think that line has been a jolt of energy. They've looked fresh. Defensively, they've been good defensively. When everything's not been going well defensively for the rest of the pairings, you notice when a line is playing good defensively, and they've been very tight defensively, which I appreciate. They tacked on 2 goals. Cooley's been money.
Steve-O appreciates you.
Kako's been starting to hit the back of the net. So I like what I'm seeing with this line. And not even that, they were positioning Hellebuck in tough spots and positioning him in bad opportunities to make saves. Now, he did rise to the occasion, make some saves. He did miss some, but that's what I liked from this line. Positives. What have you seen from this line?
Oh my gosh. I mean, just first of all, the fact that Lafreniere, Cooley, and Kako scored the 3 goals yesterday is such a positive. Like, all these guys are sub 24 years old. They're all part of the rebuild. First overall pick, second overall pick, second round pick. Like, huge. That is huge. Braden Schneider had 2 assists. The other first round pick they took, they jumped the Devils to take him in the 2020 draft class. Like, that's enormous in terms of, like, let's be reflexive and gosh, burping and everything over here. Um, and appreciate that. Really, like all the young guns are coming through. That line though, they're everything. They get out of the zone quickly. They move through. I think Filipino is a master at moving up ice through the center slot. That line, Santa Claus Lane down the middle of the ice through the slots. Um, Kak Kako and Cooley, it's the fact that they got to the net. Like you said, like they put the Jets in an uncomfortable position. They're able to fly through the neutral zone, play well defensively, and get the puck out quick. Get to the net quick. Get to the net. Get to the dirty areas. That's where you're always taught. Like, this is what baffled me when I was a hockey player. Like, I love the dirty areas. I wasn't the I mean, for even my level, I was no standout, but I love the dirty areas. I love net front because that's where you score goals. It doesn't matter how. whether you're cruising through the slot, taking a shot, whether you're Cooley on the doorstep, whether you're Kakko just getting his stick on it. Like, that's what makes a difference in a hockey game. They've scored 11 goals and have not been on the ice for a goal against. That's insane. They're the only line that hasn't given up a goal this season. 14 games. I mean, if that's not enough, first of all, to make Will Cooley's price go up, make, Heedle's value go up, and then, which, I mean, we knew already, but, and Kaapo Kakko is on, he's another one that's on a contract year. Like, he's making a case. He's playing really well. So I really like what they've done, and they've been really like this really bright spot for the team.
Yeah, they've been great. Yeah, again, I liked how you mentioned, having that in front presence. I think that's something we've done extremely well. The king of that Kreider hasn't really been able to do that. He's another one. I'm not blaming him, but he's another one I'd like to see a little bit more out of.
Yeah.
But it's understandable. Kreider can't get in front of the net. When you got Mika who's really struggling online, and you can't play to that strength. But Cooley's been driving to the net. Cooley's been dishing them out in front of the net, getting opportunities. Heedle's been screening a few times. I mean, again, everything you want to see to make it harder for a goalie, because everything adds up. And again, really a positive to this line. I think a lot of people in Rangers land are really not talking about this line. This line is a big positive.
My brother was actually saying something like, yeah, they texted me the other day like that Will Cooley reminds him of like kind of like a younger JT Miller or Kreider. And I was like, you know what? I don't think his skating is there, and I don't think he has the hands like Miller, but I think he was trying to say like his shot. Like, he's got a wicked shot. And I
Yeah,
think he's got that Kreider, like he goes to the net, he's big. I could see it. Like,
yeah. I
I
got
think
to
his
see a
skating kind of
yeah. You
right.
read my mind. The skating's gotta be, if you want to compare him to Miller, especially Kreider, I think the skating, and the speed, has got to be a little bit better. But
Yeah,
I'm not ready to judge on that. Maybe let's keep developing on that one. Who
we let
knows?
that sizzle in the back of the stove. Heard?
I
All
like
right,
that.
so Steve-O, this is what I want to say though, because we didn't get to it, and it's like low key scripted, whatever. But I want to ask you if you think I guess these problems, but also now that we're talking positives, let's talk both ends of the rainbow. Do you think that the Rangers have become redundant? Because I think something that the media, fans alike, like I think the reporters aren't necessarily like struggling what to write, but it's like it feels like the same. And last year was like Peter Laviolette needs to get the most out of this team, and he did. And they won the President's Trophy, and then they lost, and it was like, oh. But now it feels like this year, like outside of the messy play, like I feel like the Rangers go through either they struggle for a little bit and figure it out. They lose to teams that are better than them. There are players that are criticized more than others. Like I feel like it's always the same three things. And also positives like players break out, players have best seasons of their career. Do you think that like overall there's a lot that's been redundant?
I think it comes down to, I think the media for sure, and the media coverage has been a little redundant, especially
Okay.
with the amount of Rangers haters who want to come out and give takes. I think those tend to be the ones that blow up. But listen, this team I guess if you want to look at it and say a little redundant, yeah, you could. But at the end of the day, it's something that we'll all take. That we know this is going to be a playoff team. The question for them is going to be seeding, where they play. And it comes down to April and May with this team. It's the same. It's been the same thing for the last few years. Obviously in the past, we've beat up on the Metro.
Mhm.
We haven't really gotten a good taste of that yet. We played the Islanders, and we've taken care of business with Carolina in the past, but Carolina's on a heater, man, right now. Carolina's playing good. Devils are just a little too inconsistent for me. We just played Winnipeg last night. My take on them. I think they're king of frauds. They're definitely a fraudulent team. Credit to
15
them.
and 1, 15 and 1.
15-1. But again,
Best start ever.
on paper, yeah, I'm not discouraging anything that Winnipeg has done.
Yeah, but on paper, the New York Jets should be better.
That's true. That is true. But to me, their first round exit. I mean, I just don't. Again, we've seen them in spurts. I mean, last year they had a win streak put together last year. I mean, they just make nothing out of it. Their first round exit, the last like 3 years, and one of them they didn't even make the playoffs. So I mean,
I just don't know if they have the star power to overcome other teams,
exactly.
right? Like Colorado wasn't that good
Right.
last year, but like McKinnon and McCarr just iced them.
Yeah, and
All right, I could see it. I'm gonna accept it.
right. Listen, I'm not saying they're a bad team. They're not a bad team. There's other teams that are better when it comes to the puck dropping in May, and I think I
Okay.
congratulate them. They took advantage of our mistakes last night, and they've been able to capitalize on a lot of teams' mistakes this year. And
Now that you mention that, Steve, we're talking Rangers Jets. That's what everything that we're talking about is surrounding that game. Something else you and I didn't really talk about. I don't want to cut you off. I hate doing that.
oh, go ahead.
The Rangers scored 3 goals and they really gave away 3 goals. Like, I see what you're saying. I don't know. Fraud might be a tough label. I'm not going to agree with that. But I do agree with you in the sense of like the Rangers did kind of lose to themselves last night. Like, they put themselves in some bad positions. It wasn't
Exactly.
like the Jets like put up 6 and just demolished the Rangers.
Yeah,
Like,
and,
the
and
Rangers gave up some pucks that they shouldn't have.
exactly, and Winnipeg also did a good job of taking the momentum away from us. Scoring you know uh, less than 3 minutes into the game. I mean, that's a momentum killer right there. Rangers come back and tie it. Jets come back and take the lead right back. Rangers come back and tie it again. Jets come right back and take the lead right again. So they capitalized on mistakes, and they really took the momentum out of the Rangers' hands and made it 10 times harder than it actually was. This was a close game, for a majority of this game, and it just seemed like the Jets capitalized on that. And I'm not I just don't see it, man. You call us a hot take. We've been money with our takes
Sizzle,
recently, so I
sizzle.
we're established. So I listen. I'm dishing them out. I don't think Winnipeg. Yeah, I just don't think Winnipeg. I think they're first round exit, but
How
we'll
about
come.
Mark Scheifele though? 14 goals in 19 games against the Rangers. That is gluttonous. That is disgusting.
I know
14 goals in 19 games. He's a
that's true.
killer. He's a Ranger killer.
Listen, they've beaten good teams. I know they beat Colorado. They beat a couple good teams, but I mean they played the Sharks twice.
Colorado's not that good this year.
They played the Sharks twice. I think they played the Blue Jackets twice. They played the Red Wings. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
games.
but Steve, all right. Actually, you know what? I'm glad you brought this up because I got a Mike Tyson quote loaded up. So you bring it my way, man. Here's my thing. The Jets, you're saying, well, they kind of been feasting on the bottom feeders. Well, then what have the Rangers been doing? They lost to Florida. They lost to Winnipeg. Like, who is the best team the Rangers beat this year? I actually think I usually get frustrated at times when the Rangers are called frauds after like one or two losses or like one bad loss. I'm not going to say they're frauds, but like, I don't know. Again, right now we got the headline. Are these, are the themes getting redundant with this team? I feel like it right now. It feels like their successes are a little bit fabricated, at least this year.
Yeah, that's definitely true. You look back at games where you should have won, like the Florida game. Not saying we should have won, but we were obviously way outplayed, and that shows that we are not the best team, in this conference. But I mean, the best game to answer your question was that Leafs game on the road. I mean, that was a
Yeah,
dominant performance. And again, the Leafs are a good team. But yeah, listen, you're right. On paper, I think we're a better team than the Jets. The Jets have the momentum, and I'm not discrediting what they've done. Yeah, they've been amazing. What are they, 15-1? I mean, that's awesome. I'm just
yeah,
saying that when it comes to May, I just the Rangers are not frauds. I mean, frauds are Dallas Cowboys level. You get to the first round,
yeah.
you're a first round exit. The Rangers were not that. And even in 2023 when we played the Devils, that's not fraudulent. Where the Devils were a good team, and it went 7. It went the distance. You couldn't have extended it any longer than you could have. And last year, we're not frauds. We made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. We were 2 wins within the Stanley Cup. So I think we're way past, what people want to say the Rangers are frauds. Obviously not frauds.
I don't
But
think they're frauds. This is where I'm concerned. I'm concerned that this is the team's DNA when they're at their floor, right? And hear me out. Like we mentioned, the times that the Rangers don't succeed are when their best players struggle the most. And they've gone through 3 coaches in 6 seasons in this Panarin era of playoff caliber contention, 2019-20 to now. And at times it's been the coaches, it's been players, who their partner is on defense, who their line mate is. But this is the same exact display. What you and I watched together against Buffalo and what we kind of watched against Winnipeg is the feeling I had sitting and watching game 6 versus Tampa, games 3, 4, 5, and 7 against New Jersey, games 5 and 6 against Florida. The end of 2021, regular season. Let's go regular season. They played the Islanders and got killed. And they played Washington, Tom Wilson incident. And that ended their season. They fought their way all the way back. They started like 0-7, got all the way back to playoff contention. All they had to do was win 2 of 3 games. They lost all of them. December 2022, the Trouba helmet toss. They were horrible in that stretch. And January 2024, last year, it was mostly on Igor, but it was a tough month, 5-4 record. They lost to some bad teams too. This is what it feels like when they're at their floor. And that's why I'm concerned. Like Mike Tyson said this quote about the upcoming fight. He said, Jake Paul, he's a manufactured killer. I'm a natural killer. And my fear right now is that the New York Rangers are viewed as very manufactured. Like, I think teams are coming in and they're, all right, Norris Trophy, Adam Fox, he's not playing very well. Jacob Trouba, captain, tough guy, he ain't playing too well. Zibanejad, #1 center, I got him on lock. Like Barkov, I don't think Barkov loses sleep over playing Zibanejad, you know? And I think that's where other teams are coming in. And like Winnipeg last night, Kyle Connor, man, he's a killer. Mark Scheifele, he's a killer. I think they look and although you believe they're fraudulent, which I do understand, like, okay, they've beaten some bottom feeder teams. The Rangers have done the same. And I think that's where I'm concerned is this team a manufactured killer? Because sometimes when they're at their lowest, it feels like they don't have a natural killer instinct. Like I think if the Florida Panthers have gone on stretches where they struggled, Matt Kachuk's dropping the gloves. Matt Kachuk's bringing his game. I don't get that same sense from some of the Rangers, like Zibanejad, Trouba, Miller. Miller, I feel like when all the chips are on the table, sometimes he folds like a deck of cards, like a house of cards. So I don't know, man. I know that's fighting words, but yeah, I just feel like there's 2 ways to look at it, and I feel like I trapeze in between. I'm on the rope, I'm on the tightrope, but I feel like do you ever question the gut check that this team has?
yeah, I do, but I think every fan of every team does at some point.
Yeah.
Every reasonable fan. I'll circle back and add another layer to my question, to my answer before. I said that obviously, I think the media narrative has something to do with it, but more important than that, I think when things are off for this team, we don't make fast adjustments, and it's not like Mika and Panarin are not adjustable players. And I think when something's not going right, we just go right back to the well for the same things. And when it's not working, it doesn't work, and this team loses. And you see it sometimes when things are not going. We go to the well and it works. It comes out. We get 3 power plays. We score on 2 of them. Panarin with the long ice passes creates a rush. Kreider comes in, shorthanded goal. Mika gets going on the power play. That's this team's strengths. We go to the well to what we're used to, what we're comfortable. And I'll say what we're comfortable with, we are so good at. I think we're one of the best teams at, of having a style of play and sticking to it and being good at it the way we play. The problem is that when we're not, when we're not sticking to how we play in our game and we get thrown off our game. And let's be honest, there's been a lot of games this year where we've gotten thrown off our game. We just keep going back to the well and it doesn't work, whether it's Panarin or Mika or defense approach as a whole, just doesn't work, and again, it's kind of going back to last year, it's the same things we've been repeating, but when you're a power play first team, you're very reliant on the power play. And I feel like there's a lot of games this year where, we're sitting there and we're like, man, we just need a power play to get back into this game. We're one power play from getting back into this game. And that's the approach, that's just the fact of the matter with this team, when that's how they just go back to the well. And that's the truth. And when it works, it works. When it doesn't work, then we're kind of in a funk. And we don't, Laviolette is good at making adjustments, but the players, our core is not good at adjustments, unfortunately.
You can't change the spots on a leopard. My
Yeah,
dad, my father,
quote of the day.
he's like the guy that like he'll watch a movie and he'll be like, the truck will break down and he'll be like, it's the transmission, but he won't say anything the entire time, the entire movie. He lives by that. Like you can't change the spots on a leopard. And I think what fans are going to have to both accept, but also, hopefully the players prove us wrong. What we're saying is like Mika Zibanejad, I don't think at this point, like, I don't think he's coming out of this and becoming a great 5-on-5 player. Like, I don't think he's breaking out of the slump and then reaching in like these unrealistic heights. I think I agree with what you're saying. Like, he's going to break it when he breaks out of this because he will. Like, reality is he will. It's probably not going to reflect in his numbers at the end of the year. They might be around 70 points again, but Zibanejad will come out of this and likely be better on the power play, better shorthanded, and okay at 5-on-5. Not elite center 5-on-5, like good at 5-on-5, a good hockey player 5-on-5 at the National Hockey League level. But I also think that's what's frightening about this squad is like it's not just last year. Like I know you just said, last year's an example, so I'm not even trying to, throw any shade at you. Like this has been years. Like how many years? 2021, 22 was, game 6 against Tampa. Oh, maybe we'll reignite on the power play. It's been years of, this team clearly relies on getting an energy source from their really strong power play. And when that's not clicking, when Igor starts giving up some soft goals, when the defense collapses, this is the result. And I think the themes are getting redundant for sure. Like, and with that, I actually kind of want to move away from it because you and I have talked about this for a lot of the start of the year. And I like what you brought up with the third line because it's getting, it's a lot to talk about these topics. And obviously they're the hot topics, but I think we've kind of made the point time and time again. And, hopefully we'll see some changes.
Yeah, I think, the last thing we could talk about before I wrap up on this epi, it's just the state of the Metro, where we stand, and just let's take a step back and look at things in perspective. I mean, I see both sides to the argument. Part of me is saying, everybody, relax, calm down. There's one bad game here, one bad game here. We're still 9-4. With 19 points, that's still pretty darn good. That's top 8 in the NHL, if not top 6. However, you do look at some of these other teams and you say, wow, Carolina's playing really well. The Devils are now, I think, 5 or 6 points ahead of us. Washington's playing extremely well. A lot of these teams are, on win streaks. I mean, I got to tell you, Carolina, even though they haven't scared me, in the past, they don't scare me currently right now until we play them. But, they're playing pretty darn good. I mean, how about Jack Roslovic? 9 goals in 14 games. I mean, that's just classic New York Rangers at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Metro is really not competitive towards the back end of the year. The only thing that's competitive is the seeding, so I'm not saying I'm worried. I still think we're in a good position, but I don't want to get behind of ourselves where, New Jersey's got 6 points ahead of us. And now 6 points becomes 8 points, and then
Yeah,
Carolina's gaining ground. So it's definitely
that's a good
something.
point. Like, I don't think this team doesn't make the playoffs. And I actually like what you said. Like the back end, I think everyone is like the Metro is so tough. And then there's people that are like the Metro isn't. It's in the middle. It's like the Metro is tough out of the gate. And then once it gets later, it's like the Metro, like the teams that fall off hard, right? Like there's the many middle of the road teams that are unpredictable. What I like about what you said is I think for the Rangers, it's like this is why playing those really good teams is so important because the Rangers could finish second in the division or third in the division, but lose in the first round to a better team because like the three clear best teams in the Metro, I think, are the Rangers, Devils, and Hurricanes, right?
Undoubtedly. 100%. And, look at last year, even in the Metro, the last game of the year, I mean, the Islanders and the Flyers and the Capitals were all duking it out for the wild card spots. We're not a wild card team. I don't see us being a wild card team. We're top three, undoubtedly. So it just comes down to a point where I don't want to put myself. And we know these last couple of years, for some reason, January is like such a dry month. We haven't figured it out. I don't know what the hell's going on to start the new year with the boys. But yeah, I don't want to be in a position where January comes around, and we're 8 points behind, because 8 points is tough, especially when your opponent plays the Flyers and then they play the Blue Jackets. When you get down the stretch, I can't emphasize enough how fast the season goes. So yes, we're still in a good point, but we have such high expectations. This was the quote of this, the mantra of this season is the year. This is a big year. This is it. Not even that. Sammy, we gotta give this guy some, to leave on. I mean, that's like number one for me. But I mean, in terms of the way this team is structured, I mean, and I think juries realize that this team goes to the well every single time. And if we go to the well and it doesn't pan out this year, I think we're going to see that huge blow up. But again, not there yet. We're still in a good spot. But again, I don't want to fall behind early. That's kind of my main takeaway from this right now as we speak.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think I'm gonna echo what I said mid-epi. I question if this team is manufactured killer or natural, you know? Are they a natural killer or are they not fake, not fraud, but just manufactured, you know? Like when all the chips are on the table, can they get it done? And like you said, to tie it into the year, we'll see what happens. It's November of the year, you know? Slowly that we're almost at Thanksgiving, man. That's December quick. That's December quick.
That's so
So
goofy. Leave it leave it up to us to say something goofy like that. But listen, I think this road trip is going to be a defining one, just like the road trip last year was a defining one. I mean, we got Seattle, we got Vancouver, we got Calgary. Who else is in there? And Edmonton too. They're no tough feat as well, especially at home. So this is going to be a big road trip, and we're going to see what this team is made of and what we walk away with. Walking away like we did last year is going to be pretty darn tough to do it 2 years consecutively. But listen, did it once, you could do it again. We'll be right back here at it, breaking it down next week, right in the fold of things. So that'll wrap us up here on this episode of Puck Talk CS. As always, follow our socials at Puck Talk CS for all of our content. Engage with us. Give us a holler. Do you agree with me? Are the Jets frauds? Give us a holler. We like those interactions. Have a good week, everyone. And always remember, it's just the luck of the puck.